You want strict compliance, Mr. Food Service Driver, you get it. After undergrad, I moved to Texas to manage with a mostly local chain of Tex-Mex restaurants. At one of my first training stores, I was assigned a month in the kitchen to learn their back of house, i.e., the kitchen process. As I grew up in the business and had worked during college for a large casual dining chain, I was familiar and skilled in all of the general aspects of running this type of kitchen. However, it was a good opportunity to learn the particular aspects of this company's operations. After driving from northeast Dallas to Grapevine early one morning, I greeted the driver, retrieved my clipboard and started supervising the unload. He worked fast and had the truck unloaded in about 30 minutes or so. I knew I had a good 6,090 minutes left organizing, date dotting, rotating, breaking down boxes, etc., and was happy to sign him off so he could get on his way while I continued putting away the order. For reference, this is how I had always done this and never had any problem. As I am working through the delivery, I notice we are short one case of 20-quart shrimp. Obviously, that's quite a bit of money. But those types of things happen, and in my experience, the process was to call the vendor promptly and let them know. Most times, they would contact the driver. He'd find it on the truck and bring it later, or they would credit our order. But not this time. This time, the vendor tells me that they have a strict policy about this, and since I'd signed the order, they didn't feel obligated to credit us. I told them that seemed like a bad policy when dealing with a restaurant that was doing around $70,000 a week in sales. This is 1995. And paid promptly. They didn't seem to care. So next week, I again meet the driver on delivery day. Everything was going pretty much the same. Except this week, when he handed me the delivery form to sign, I informed him that since we were short last week and his company didn't want to work with us, I wasn't signing anything until I had everything counted, and I couldn't count everything until I worked through the large pile. Since he couldn't leave without getting a signature, he got to stand on our back dock until I was done. I may have been a bit extra thorough counting and organizing that day, because he was fuming when I got back to him about 1.5 hours later with a signed form. I assume that his made him late enough to miss several deliveries that day, as many restaurants won't accept delivery between 10 and 2 p.m. But I know he was late to several stops because his company called me the next day and said that they couldn't work this way. They quickly agreed that if we cooperated and acted in good faith on future orders, they would return the favor. We received credit for the missing shrimp on our next delivery. It's not a problem until it's their problem. Wow. In 25 years in the industry, I've never had a vendor refuse to credit a missing case or mispick. Like Amazon, you accept a certain % of loss for saving labor, wasted hours. It is what it is. That's a strange hill to die on. Interesting. Years ago I had much the same thing happen in terms of missing goods. The difference was the guy running the loading docks had decided he would take one of everything from any large order as his personal tax. He had been doing it for years. Apparently, in the end, an audit uncovered a paper trail of goods misappropriation, and police were brought in. I had a similar one with delivery drivers. I ordered a washing machine online. Delivery guy came, set it in my apartment. I signed for it and he left. I unpacked the machine, hooked it up, set it in its place, and it didn't turn on. Contacted the seller, and while legally they have to accept returns of online orders for 2 weeks after the customer receives them and refund the cost of the item, the customer is obliged to pay for the return delivery, which is not cheap as an individual for a heavy washing machine. So I did the logical thing. Ordered a new, same model washing machine from the same company. Delivery guy came, set it in my apartment and waited for me to sign it. I told him, I'm gonna check it first if it works before I'll sign, as the previous didn't. He grumpily helped me remove the previous one and move this one into place. Then I said I will have to make a test washing to know it works correctly, because the previous didn't. At that point he got angry, but I explained that they already delivered me a faulty one and I will have to pay for the return cost on it, so I will make sure this one works before accepting it. In the end he agreed to bring back the previous one and wrote that I didn't accept the delivery of the second one because it was faulty. Thus they exchanged it for free after all. But it took more time and the nerves of a poor delivery guy. Simple, effective MC, nice, succinct story. 2 kudos. Had the opposite happen when I worked at Burger King. Our truck driver would just come and open the cooler and dump all the boxes right by the door and leave. Then we would have to go and put them up while doing inventory. Our supplier was really good about crediting us for missing product. Then we got a new supplier. We got our order and we had an extra box. It was T-bone steaks, not frozen. These were fresh. We called the company and they argued that we couldn't possibly have the wrong product because their driver counted it himself and it was right. After a bit of back and forth they said they wouldn't send the driver back because he didn't have time to pick up the non-existent box that we were mistaken about. Then they hung up. There were enough steaks that everyone there that day got 2 to take home. After all, why not? Why shouldn't we eat them? They were delicious. The next day they called back about the steaks. I'm sorry. You must be mistaken. What steaks again? From then on we had to receive the product as the driver was unloading it and he had to sign off on it, as well as a manager. Wasn't long before we switched to a different supplier. I may have worked at the same Tex-Mex chain. I'd bet we had different delivery companies. But I had a similar experience. But for me, it was a lesson on how to work with the drivers. From that point on, our usually good-natured driver grew very irate with me as I stood at his entry and checked off the delivery as he unloaded. He unleashed a tirade on me after about a month, and I calmly explained it was this or I follow my company's standard that I check it off once he's done unloading and he waits till I sign. He understood, and between us got his delivery stop whittled down to about 25 minutes. A few years later, I'm managing an Italian chain and taking over ordering deliveries. It's my main man running the truck again, and he tells me he convinced most of his other stops to do it my way, and his discrepancies dropped to the lowest in his region. He's happy and doing well. A decade later, I'm at a place known for bread, but by then, I am avoiding management like the plague and am working as a skilled training baker. As it's an overnight shift, I get in good with the night person and hear horror stories about the delivery guy. How he's an awful, crabby, control freak. Everyone hates him. Finally, on a truck night, I'm working, and who comes skulking but my dude? He immediately brightens up. I ask about his kids, now college age. We catch up, and I take the clipboard from the manager and start checking in like I used to so we can keep our chat going. It's not my job, but I know the product, and it's my dude. Delivery ends. We shake hands, and I send him off with a coffee and a treat, and the manager is floored. He tells me they've complained left and right to get the guy off their route because of his attitude. But that tonight had to have been his non-evil twin. I figured out they were making him go sit in the lobby and wait while they put away truck while they count. No. I had a chat with the GMs on his route and got them on board with my much more efficient system. By the end of the year, the GMs saw such a difference that they gave the driver special recognition and a goodie bag as a thank you. as well as a formal blanket rescinding of their prior complaints they had called in. Mistakes happen, but not always in their control. And those delivery guys put up with too much to be stuck as the middleman. I once delivered an entire order to the wrong location. We created our routes on a case-by-case basis to try to stay in the same part of the city for efficiency. The place I delivered to was way out of the way considering my other stops. And I remember thinking it was a little strange. The receiver was surprised to see me but accepted the delivery and even signed the bill that had the wrong name on it. Didn't realize the mistake until later when the place that had actually placed the order called to inquire and my supervisor started asking me questions. Lol. Both places were regular customers, so I was forgiven for the mix-up, and anytime I had to deliver to either of them we did sort of a double or triple confirmation of the destination. Fish vendors will always push a little. Send you mediocre product now and then. To get the measure of you, you have to stay alert with them. And don't let them walk on you. As a former food service driver, this is the way. There has to be a measure of good faith from both parties. Literally, what did they expect? Tears of joy. Good job training your vendor. I'm reminded of a recent news story about a school official who allegedly stole 11,000 cases of chicken wings worth $1.5 million. While in your case it could just be a simple error of loading or unloading the truck. It's also possible someone snagged a box of shrimp assuming no one would notice or that the company would think the recipient was lying. Food service deliveries go through a regular amount of product loss due to damage and aging out. So it's quite possible for theft to go under the radar for a while. Given the rude response from the vendor, I wouldn't be surprised if they were in cahoots with the driver on some theft. What does 20 quart mean? I thought it was 20 count. But I can't imagine anyone getting that upset about 20 missing shrimp. I've been Googling, but all I'm getting is stuff about Connecticut. A bit extra thorough, meaning counted everything 3 times just to be sure. And never let a supplier take their own inventory in your place and place an order for you. This is the way. Share the pain. Blue Mesa Grill. Great story.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.